Hey now.
Can't stop addicted to the shindig.
Oh, what up, everybody? Welcome into the original, live, unfiltered, unedited, uncensored, commercial-free Sharks podcast, wrapping up your week of Sharks hockey, or shall we say, wrapping up your preseason of Sharks hockey here, Teal Town, USA. Like, subscribe, you know how all that shit works. So, what had happened was in this preseason, what had happened, Ian?
We had a draft. How far do you want to go back?
Just from when they started playing hockey, I guess.
I mean, they had a preseason. It went pretty mediocrely.
All right. Are we changing the name of the show to more Gushin for the Pushin? Is that good? Dude, it's like, are we sending everybody down just to elevate Gushin? I mean, holy crap, dude. Like, I mean, Chief had a night, no doubt, but like
he's had a really good preseason overall.
He's had an amazing amount of games that don't matter. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and such is the case with the preseason, right? But I think he's shown a lot. And when you've got a situation like with it's getting it, I know a few guys have, but there's an opportunity there, obviously, with Logan Couture still being whatever to whatever, right? Being whatever to whatever. Like there's definitely holes on the forward group. Now, obviously, with guys like Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith coming in, you don't know what, like, you don't know how that's going to affect like spots for guys like Dino Gushin. But I think with everything that he showed, I'm going to be really pissed off if he's not on the opening night roster.
And that's fun. I mean, you reward results. I totally get that. But I mean, Jesus Christ, dude, half the internet when it comes to Sharks Twitter is just like, yeah, man, Smith should be with the Barracuda and Gushin should be centering the second line. And I'm like, oh my God.
It's not get crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. Everybody with their hyper overreactions, like, Jesus Christ. But look, I mean, obviously the rosters, we're going to find out everything tomorrow. Nobody got waived today, which I think is somewhat meaningful. Might not have been a good piece of news for Gushin because where's he going to slot in? Because he's one of the few that are waiver exempt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be. I'm fascinated to see what this final lineup looks like. I think there's going to obviously be situations where guys are probably going to make this team that are going to have some of us scratching our heads. But then if if you've watched hockey at any point in your life, it's not unexpected either, if that makes sense.
Sure. Jerk looking for acknowledgement for the comeback win last night. Attendance for the Jerk bump, of course. So, I mean, now that we have a pretty decent idea of what the roster is, welcome to the final of what was evidently a bajillion preview shows since July 4th. We can say who's in and out, but let's start with the pipeline that The Athletic has ranked number 2. Oh, dude, what was it? 5 years ago, they were like 31st?
Right, yeah.
Out of 31?
Yeah.
Because Seattle didn't exist then?
I mean, that's that, and that's the way it should have been, right? 5 years ago, this was a playoff team, and had been a playoff team for consistently. So it's hard to build a prospect system when you're drafting either in the late first round or not drafting at all in the first round because you're using that to bring in a body to try and help for the playoff push or playoff run rather.
Well, and the Athletic have ranked the Sharks rebuild at 4 behind Chicago. Well, okay, you get a Connor Bedard, sure, but behind Ottawa and Anaheim.
I think so. Yeah, I saw that, and I get why people have their backup about it. But I mean, you have to remember that these are teams that have been doing it for longer.
A little bit longer, but I should also say, to be fair, I believe when that article came out, the Askarov deal had not come through yet.
Sure. Yeah, and that definitely changes things. Look,
Yeah.
I still think that the Sharks blue line prospect wise is still pretty sus.
Oh, dude, it's so anemic.
Right? And I like Sam Dickinson. Like I don't want to come off like I don't like Sam Dickinson. I like Sam Dickinson. I like Luca Cagnoni. But I think if you look at a team like Chicago who was ranked one, I mean, they had a guy come in as an 18-year-old and play pretty much the whole season playing big minutes.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, and if you look at Ottawa, I mean, again, like these teams I feel like Ottawa has been supposed to take that next step to push for the playoffs for like every year, and of course now Linus Ulmark comes in, and now it's the same song and dance that we have every. Oh, this is the season Ottawa's finally going to make the next step and push themselves back into the playoffs, but we'll see. I mean, the thing with Ottawa too is they're a situation where I think they've got guys that I really like, but none of those guys can seem to stay healthy.
Yeah. I mean, we all know Stutzla.
Yeah, Stutzla, the guy they got from us in the Carlson trade, Josh Norris,
Yeah.
Thomas Shabbat. Like there's a lot of players there that I really like, and I hope for them. Like it's a city that I think they've got a lot of good things coming up. It sounds like they're finally going to get a new building that's going to be a little closer to the core, so that they can get people from.
It couldn't get much further away.
Yeah, I don't think it's that terrible though. Like I think
Dude,
when
you
it was
listen to Randy and Drew, dude. They're like it's in another province.
No, it's I don't think it's really that bad. I think especially when you consider how much that area has grown since they put that building there. Like it's not this barren, like there's nothing else around it anymore. I think there's definitely a lot of suburbia around that arena now. So I think it's convenient for those people. But I think if you're like a person coming from like Gatineau or Hull on the like from the Quebec side and you're driving all that way to get to a game, that probably sucks. So I think having a more centralized thing will be good for those that are on the Quebec side of the border that Ottawa sits on. I think it'll be good for them. And I think it, for the people that live more in Ottawa proper, it'll be nice for them too. But I don't know. Ottawa's transit is a mess. So I don't know. Maybe I think it'll be good for some people and probably not so great for another.
Well, let me hit up a couple in the chat real quick. Tyler saying Cagnoni and Gushkin are the reason Gunnin did anything last night. Clearly, the winning strategy is to let skilled players move the puck around while Gunnin stands in front of the net. Hey, Pavelski made a solid living off that, my brother.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can do it, if you can pull it off. Real Deal Prime saying Zetterlund. What line is he on? Drafted on my fantasy team. I mean, I'm going to say 2 because it seems like everybody has projected that 70s line with Eklund,
Yeah.
Celebrini, and Toffoli. So I think 2 is probably solid. And if he can, I mean, Zetterlund felt like he was playing a lot of top line minutes because that's how, low the bar was. Not to say that Zetterlund is not good. It's just that the lack of talent was woof. So if he's facing slightly, worse combos, I think might see a little more out of him. I would take Zetterlund over. How many goals did he have last season? Like 22, 23, something like that?
Something, yeah.
So I can see him hitting 25.
Yeah, I like Fabian Zetterlund a lot, man. I think that I think he's a really good player, but I think that last year, because obviously he was a piece in the Timo Meier trade, and Timo Meier didn't have like a great season last year. That was hampered by a lot of injury. But I think people's estimation of Zetterlund being better than Timo Meier are in outer space.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll get hate for that. I don't care.
But going back to that athletic ranking, the Sharks rebuild at 4, but also saying they won't contend for another 5 years. I'm like, 3 years, okay. 5 seems to be a bit of a stretch. I mean, you think about what's going to happen in 5 years. You're going to get so much dead money off the books. You're going to you're going to be beyond Vlasic and Couture. I mean, if they just hit at least one more decent defensive prospect, in a couple of years, I think, whether it's Dickinson, Cagnoni, and you hit it on a prospect and maybe Thrun starts, playing his weight.
Yeah, you'd hope, but I mean, it goes back to a team where they ranked ahead of us, right? Like in the Ottawa Senators, who have been doing this. We've been. I mean, look at Buffalo, right? Like, I mean,
Uh,
the problem is with trying to climb back into it is if you've got to climb over somebody to do it.
mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, in the Pacific Division, that shouldn't be an issue now, but in 5 years, that might be a completely different animal when you look at like some of the prospects that some of these other teams have in the Pacific Division. Look, I don't think Anaheim's going to be dog shit forever,
I mean, not forever.
but they
Everything's
could
cyclical.
be a team that the Sharks would have to climb over in 5 years when a lot of their younger guys. Because I think that, again, if you look at the Ducks, like I don't think much of the Ducks defense this year, but some of their defensive prospects I would certainly put ahead of anything that the Sharks have.
Well, and when Vegas is dog shit in 5 years.
Well, yeah, but again, Vegas is one of those teams where it's like they kind of remind me of the Bruins. I can't call them dead until I know for sure they're in the ground.
Yeah, but I still love the fact that the Sharks put that trade protection on the pick.
Right.
That is such just a middle finger from the organization going, yeah, we think you might actually really suck this coming season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get into it in the division preview for sure. I don't want to
Count the chickens.
My load now. Yeah.
Yeah. But well, then we'll take this time to welcome in my new pussy. This is Marble, everybody. This is the new one. Oh, she's kicking the mic away. She doesn't want to be on camera.
Yeah.
But yes, a birthday surprise last month. Mwah.
Very nice.
She's a kick and a half. Let's see. So, I mean, you talk about who to watch. I'm going to throw some names. Obviously, Gushin, because that's who everybody's talking about.
He should be, right? Like,
sure. And the person I'm probably most nervous, or like if everybody's talking about Gushin, the one I'm really nervous if my name is Thomas Bordelot.
Again, but injury though, right? Like he's a guy who I think was probably had a layup for a spot on this roster coming into the thing, and then he gets hurt at captain's ice, and here we
they're
are.
Both kind of smaller guys, kind of play a similar role. So I don't know. We'll see. Ethan Cardwell seems to have made a little bit of noise during preseason.
Ethan Cardwell's going to get some games this year. I don't know if he's going to make the team out of camp, but I feel like he's a guy who we could definitely see him getting games just because he's a really versatile guy. I think he's a guy who has like some offensive upside, but I think he also can do a lot of the bumping and grinding that could also give him a shot to help the Sharks in a bottom six role as well. So I think he's a really interesting guy who I like a lot. One of the definitely few bright spots on the Barracuda last year. And I think he's a guy that gets games this year for sure. I just don't know how soon.
A name that I'm really interested in watching, Graf.
Yeah, Colin Graf's an interesting one because he hasn't really stood out to me at all over the preseason. I'm fascinated to see where he starts the year because I think he was obviously a guy who came over and played NHL games right away, but last year's team was like, this team is better. I think this year's team is a better Sharks team than they put out there last year.
I would hope so.
That bar is really fucking low.
What was it? 19 wins?
Yeah, that bar was really low. So he's a guy who obviously got games last year. But I don't think he's a sure thing to make the team out of camp. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go to the Barracuda, get a few games down there.
And another guy who is waiver exempt, as is Bordelot, by the way.
Correct.
So there's going to be a lot of interesting decisions made between now and Thursday. Obviously, we're going to hear most of them tomorrow, or all of them tomorrow, basically.
Yeah.
And then the other one, at least on defense, I'm going to say Wallman. He is, year 2 of 3 is going to be UFA after next season. But I feel like this, not necessarily redemption tour, but this, when you're the guy making the second most money on the blue line for the Sharks, I
really like that pickup for the Sharks, like just for nothing too, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I'm expecting good things from Jake Wallman. I think he's one of the more exciting guys they picked up. And again, they got him for nothing.
Oh, and dude, I mean, we love those kind of pickups. I mean,
Yeah,
who was the cat that we picked up for nothing? Ended up sending to Tampa.
Mike Esamont.
Yeah, like that was a solid pickup. I mean, and
Mhm.
for a little bit of time, I mean, not totally for nothing. I mean, it turned out being for nothing, but I mean, Suomela for Barabanov, I'll make that play 20 times a D.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, finding something for nothing, sure. So they're gonna have to obviously improve on the numbers. There's so many numbers to get into. So, I mean, like
Yeah.
I said, 19 wins last season. I
Mhm.
think we can all comfortably say, like, if they don't hit 20,
Yeah,
like somebody is in at that point, who do you even let go? Who falls on that sword? It ain't gonna
nobody.
be Warsofsky. It ain't gonna be.
Yeah,
So
nobody falls on that sword. It's just they just chalk it up to another, learning, and that's what it is. I mean, look at like the Sharks for how they've gotten a couple of guys that have made the jump now, and they've got more draft picks and guys that are gonna continue to develop. But I mean, at the end of the day, this like the expectations for them are still pretty rock bottom.
yeah, but I mean, obviously, you want to see improvements in certain areas. I mean,
Sure.
they were 1 for 5 in the shootout. Like
Mhm.
maybe there's an area you look at it improving, and obviously names like Celebrini are hopefully going, and Toffoli will
Toffoli
have an
too. Yeah.
impact on that. Uh, then, and especially if you have a healthy competition between Vanacek and Blackwood, and they push each other.
Yeah, and then and we don't know how Askarov's gonna fit into that mix also.
Yeah, um, I think improvement on a dash 150 goal differential is something to look at.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Like I think you definitely want to see improvement. Like this team can't be a team that allows 20 goals in 2 games.
Oh, but that was kind of fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie, just simply because it was back to back. Like if one game had happened in
Yeah,
November and the other one happened at March, you just kind of go, "Oh, it feels like that one that happened back in November." The fact that they pulled that
right.
shit off back to back was just like,
Back to
"Oh,
back nights. Yeah.
hats off!" Good for you guys. And wasn't one of those against a Eric Carlson Pittsburgh Penguins team?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's just
Sure was.
that's outstanding. But
Yeah,
just
it's
to
a lot of pain.
to get back to some of the numbers that happened last season. I mean, the Sharks scored first in 36 games,
Mhm.
and they only won 17 of those. They lost 14 times when they were leading in the third.
Yep. That's definitely a thing that happened.
Right. And the thing that really gets you is by period, this team got worse. It was their goals against in the first period were 83.
Yep.
Second was 101. Third was 118. So obviously there needs to be a focus on, getting better as the game progresses, not getting worse.
Well, it's compete. The first period, like you got to play the third period like you play the first, and I think that was the one big thing under David Quinn was that this team just did not know how to play a complete game.
It also felt like there were certain times they just didn't know how to play with the lead.
True. Yeah. That too.
Granted, probably because it was somewhat rare. Like, what is this? But
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate because I think last year they squandered a lot of pretty decent goaltending. We've talked about goaltending on this team forever, and last year it really wasn't the issue. Like I know it's funny to say how we just talked about giving up 10 goals in back-to-back games, but like goaltending last year wasn't the problem it had been previously.
I mean, hey, you know what? If shit goes sideways with Blackwood and Vanacek, just know that Reimer is available.
That's true. Although I think Askarov would be the guy you'd want to be
Yeah, of course.
filling in.
Something else that happened, of course, over this last month is the quote unquote leadership group being announced. Couture's technically still has the C. Ferraro is evidently going to wear the A for 82, while Toffoli and Goodrow will have A's on at home. Granlund and Cunnin will wear them on the road. I'm not a fan of the 5-letter group. We saw this, a few seasons back where it was what? It was like Burns, Carlson, Couture, Hurdle, Ferraro, or whatever. And it was just like, no, like you pick your 3. You don't, not everybody needs a letter to be a leader. But
that's true.
I think you pick the 3 to drive the bus. It just feels like the Goody thing. Honestly, it feels like the Goody letter was like a, okay, Goody's kind of crying in the club about the whole move and everything. Maybe if we throw him a letter, he'll calm down.
I don't know. I think Barclay Goodrow I think Barclay Goodrow's the kind of guy you want a letter on. Look at I like Barclay Goodrow's a guy who obviously should be a little tilted he got sent here the way he did, right? Because he had a no trade. San Jose was probably on it.
He had a no trade deal?
Yes.
Okay.
And they got around it because it wasn't a no move, so they got around it by putting him on waivers, and the Sharks claimed him.
Okay, so be mad at your agent for not, doing
Correct.
your deal, right?
Yeah. I mean, you don't give a guy like Barclay Goodrow a no move to begin with, but that's neither here nor there. So I can understand why he was upset that went, but he's a pro, especially Shea, but he's a guy who plays the game the right way. I've never when he made that full-time jump to being an NHL player, he's never a guy who I questioned his effort. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's a guy who, and he's a guy who worked for everything he has. So he's a guy that I would want the kids to look up to, because I think he's a guy who's earned everything that he got. I mean, he was a part of that really good third line in Tampa, parlayed that into a ridiculous deal that was way too much, but good for him, right? So I don't have an issue with him having an A. I think he's the kind of player that you kind of want the kids to look up to.
Puck guy clearly driving the Teal Town account today, not knowing which one he's on. Saying Ferraro is essentially the de facto C with no Couture. Then you get 2 extra A's every game.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that next I wonder if that's kind of the Sharks tipping their hand that Ferraro might be the next captain before.
And I'm not a fan.
Yeah,
I don't know. I loves me some Mario as a person. I don't know, him as a leader. I wonder. I don't know that he's the guy that.
But he's another guy. Like, my criticism of Mario Ferraro's, it's never been the give a shit, or it's never been the effort. I think my issue with Mario Ferraro has been, I know the engine runs, but who's behind the wheel?
Exactly. And when you compare that to what has come before, it's Couture, guy who is there a guy besides Couture who has made a bigger impact in the playoffs over the last decade for the Sharks?
Yeah.
When games have been on the fucking line between him and Pavelski, who else do you want in there? But Couture, Pavelski, Thornton, okay, Marlowe.
Mm-hmm.
But these
are the franchise forever.
Yeah, these are franchise guys. I don't know that Ferraro is a franchise guy, to be quite honest.
No, he would be the Vinny Damphousse. He's the transitional guy.
Yeah, and he's got one more year on his deal. I'm, at 26 years old, I don't know that I'm gonna mind if Ferraro is not here in the 26-27 season.
He could. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. But I think it does show, by him wearing an alternate all the time, it does. That the Sharks obviously feel very highly about his leadership qualities. And I'm not in the room, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you whether that's true or not. I don't know.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, and the whole idea of tipping the hand. But again, I sit there and go, oh, "Fuck, man! Read the tea leaves." It's like, if he's on year 3 of 4, come on. But anyway, perhaps Celebrini can wrestle that away in a season.
Well, that would be the goal, right? Is you want Macklin Celebrini to come in and give him time to take over? Because I hate when you
Yeah, I
have
don't
like
want
an
to
18
anoint
year old
him.
come in and like
Yeah.
immediately give him the C, and that's like, what are we doing at that point, right?
Yeah, I don't want to do that, but just like based on this kid's work ethic so far, I
Mhm.
mean, talk about setting the standard very early on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Pavelski-esque, where first one on, last one off. I mean, anyway, so before we get into like the actual division, I've been kind of hinting at some of these deals.
Mhm.
Who are you looking at to be a big move? Whose head is on the block come the deadline? There's not, there's a few names, not a whole lot, but you've got Granlund,
Yeah,
who,
Granlund's obviously on the list.
and, at 32 years old, stepped in admirably in
Yep.
Couture's absence. Remember, Couture only played 6 games in the middle of the season last year. I,
Correct.
I thought Granlund set the tone, points leader. I mean, did a great
Yeah, I
fucking
think
job
Granlund, I think Nico Sturm's a guy who I think a lot of teams would be interested come the deadline. Now, I don't think there's like,
at 29 years old.
yeah, but he's a gamer. Like he's a guy that he's a depth piece that playoff team will definitely swoop in and scoop up. I thought he played really well for Colorado during their cup run.
Yep.
Um,
I thought
so he's a guy I could see. But if
Considering
you
what the
listen to
Sharks
the
look like
media,
last season,
yeah,
Granlund, I don't know that you got more out of somebody.
no, absolutely not. But again, it's like, what do you? I don't know. I mean, and maybe they keep him around for a little bit depending on what happens with Couture. Because
That's
again, they've
huge.
still got some time to they need time for some of these contracts to go away still. So keeping a guy like Granlund around wouldn't be the worst. But if you listen to everyone else, like they will tell you that the Sharks have no retention slots left, so they can't do anything. They're fucked.
Yeah. Okay. So
So and
does that
I
mean that
disagree with
Granlund is like a perfect target then for the trade deadline?
Yeah, it's a lot, right? Like the Sharks can't retain any money, but I think that's gonna be
But
a
actual
narrative that's gonna be super
dollars?
blown. No, actual dollars, but the cap is still the cap. So
Yeah, but I mean, it
yeah.
made a decent bump up this season. So,
Mhm.
I mean, there's going to be some space there. I think
Well,
if
I think someone will
if
if
Granlund
someone
has the
wants to make it work, they'll
season,
make it work.
if he continues what he did last season, and I
Mhm.
would hope that with a little bit more talent, will, hopefully he will do that, make himself a little more valuable. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
what's your target for him? Like a third round?
yeah. I mean,
But you're not going to
let's
get
see
a
what
lot
happens.
because
You're not
of
gonna
the
get a lot,
cap.
but you might get more. I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on what situation the team that's trading for him's in, right? Did they just lose a guy and they need someone to come in and be able to play second line minutes
True.
because they've lost a guy to injury right before the trade deadline and they're not sure what's going to happen for their playoff push? Then that price goes up. But
All right.
I don't think like they're gonna like I just don't think the Sharks are gonna get any like super blockbustery stuff. I think
No.
the narrative of them, they can't do nothing because there's no retention slots, so no one's gonna even look at the San Jose Sharks players, is complete horseshit. But
If only we could
I
get another
don't think
first for Goodrow.
you're right. But I don't think that it's gonna be a situation um where I think you're going to be super blown away by, because there's not a whole lot left to tear down off this team that you can move specifically, right? Like if you look at like the big money deals, like, well, one, Vlasic I don't even think is skating yet, and then it's not the time to do any stupid stuff like that
No,
either.
not at all. So I mean, Granlund and Sturm look like good targets.
Yeah, those are the guys that off the top of my head immediately that I would be like, yeah, those guys. Those guys are probably the
Cunnin
guys.
is, it's year one of one UFA. I mean, to me, this guy is just, playing to stay on a roster.
Yeah, I mean, the Sharks love Luke Cunnin, man. And again, is he a guy that someone might swoop in and take a look at? Like NHL GMs love
But to
the
me,
Luke
Cunnin,
Cunnins of
he's
the world.
he's like another Nason, another Lawrence, another
Mhm.
not I mean, maybe you want to say guy from the Guy Factory, but like I don't. When you look at the amount of talent that is sitting in the pool for the Sharks, like
Yeah,
like if you obviously if somebody's gonna like walk down and say, hey, we'll throw you a sixth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jules is right. Someone might take a sniff around Jan Ruda.
Yeah, well, and those are more names that I have. I'm not done.
Okay, sorry. My bad. Sorry.
But obviously, Jan Ruda, who's sitting there, 34-year-old defenseman on his
Mhm.
final year, making 2.7. That is a guy who also seems to be a little polarizing for some of the fan base that are on social media, so you can't give a whole lot of weight to their opinions. But the Jan
I don't
Ruda,
think Jan Ruda's like. Look at, is Jan Ruda the best defenseman in the NHL? No, he's not even close. But is he? I don't.
he's a middle
I
pairing guy making
understand.
2.7. Like, what are you
Yeah.
looking for?
Yeah, I understand the gripes with him, but at the same time, I still think he's one of the like. Again, you need some guys around the kids to show them the
Absolutely.
right way to play. And yes, Jan Ruda, that there's parts of his game that absolutely drive me up a wall. But at the same time, I look up and down this list of defensemen on the Sharks, and if I look at guys where I'd want my young defenseman to try and take notes from, it's Jan Ruda.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the other thing is that if you look at kind of the quote unquote depth chart,
Mhm.
if you look at that top line, that 70s line, you've got a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old on there.
Right.
The next line, if you're on board the Gushin train for a day, you're talking 22-year-old Gushin, 19-year-old Smith, 25-year-old Zetterlund.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a lot of youth up front. And then on the defense, it's a 34-year-old Ruda, it's a 30-year-old CC, 30-year-old Benning, 37-year-old Vlasic as part of this. So it's like they obviously need to make some youth movement on the defensive side.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, you have to have somebody that shows these kids how to play the right way. I don't mind Ruda and CC setting the tone for this season and trying to show, whether it's, helping out a Henry Thrun or a Muka Madulin or Dickinson if he gets a call up, whoever. But
Dickinson can't. He's back in junior.
Oh, God damn it. But, showing certain guys who are going to try to make that move, you have to point them in the right direction. But again, Ruda and Cece, both of them, trade bait.
Yeah, and look at,
So you
Jan
use them for
Ruda
now.
has
and
a
then,
ring.
Boom. There you go.
Right? Like, and that's the thing. Like, you want like rings in the rooms. I still think rings in the room's important. And Jan Ruda has done it. He's won us. He's hoisted the Stanley Cup. Now, was he the sole reason that he hosted a Stanley Cup? Of course not. But he was there. He knows what it takes. I don't know. I get it. Like I said, there are parts of Jan Ruda's game that drive me absolutely batty. But I just think do you really want to run just play all the kids on defense in the NHL? Like,
exactly. Well, and something that Jules is saying that has kind of driven me a little bit crazy, says most of the guys Greer's has brought in have won cups.
Sure.
And to me, I say, big fucking deal. Because honestly, Doug Wilson went through a stretch of that. Well, it's every
Different
guy that had come in.
situation.
He, this guy won a cup. This guy won a cup. This guy won a cup. And I get it. It was, it was a lot more talent on the team at the time.
Yeah, because the criticism of the Sharks' big players was they didn't know how to win.
Yeah, but it was like bringing in Niemi because he had won a cup, and it's like, did he really? Was he, was he not collateral damage in that cup win?
That was, yeah, that was Lettinen and him.
Like, did they? Yeah, did they?
Final, it was.
They might have won it in spite of Niemi. We're not sure.
The goalie who let in the least goals won. It was, and the least goals was a pretty significant number if I remember that playoff series better.
But speaking of goalies, when it comes to FAs, both Vanacek and Blackwood.
Yeah.
So those are pieces that say both of them have really good seasons all of a sudden. And then if Askarov also has a solid season, all of a sudden, either Vanacek or Blackwood perhaps becomes a bit of a trade piece, especially when you look at some of the teams that are kind of in a weird sitch, like
but we
Vancouver.
said that last year too. We said the last year in the playoffs too, where there was like teams that looked like they absolutely needed to do something about their goaltending and they didn't.
Well, it's not our fault those GMs are stupid.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I just always like the one thing I always say, and it's generally true. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule. Marc-Andre Fleury was one, but generally goalies don't get you anything at the deadline.
Yeah, it would have to be. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Vegas. Things are really weird there. RFA though this season, Clem Shady,
Mhm.
dude. Jerk talked to me about Clem very early on and made me a
Mhm.
fan. I'm all about some Clem Shady, so I'm hoping that they figure out a way to keep him around. I mean, he's
Yeah, I
only
think he's a great third line guy. Like I think
dude,
he's
great third, fourth. Okay, let's just say it. Bottom six guy plays left or right side, and
Mhm.
he's only 25 years old, making $2 million. Like,
Yep.
I'm so down with that. Zetterlin making 1.45 at 25 years old as an RFA. I think if he continues what he did last year, that's a no brainer. I
Yeah.
mean, he's playing top 6 minutes. My only fear is what is the increase in price going to be?
Yeah.
That's going to be a talking point. The one that Jules is probably sitting here going, yeah, I told you motherfuckers, is Thomas Bordelot. He is a, shit or get off the pot guy this year.
Yeah, he's definitely got to show something this year that is because I think Thomas Bortolo is a player I like, but he's got to prove that he is something that you can't just get from somebody who is not only already in your depth pool that you can
Gushin.
get at a younger, cheaper price. But he's also a guy who I think has to show that he's something special enough that you just can't just one of those like mid-range free agent signings that just come in and that that's a guy that's fine it's one of those situations. So I mean I hope Thomas Bortolo has a good year once he can
Sure.
get healthy and get going here. But yeah, I think that there's definitely he's going to have to show something pretty significant this year because there's a lot of people I think nipping at his heels.
Well, Cardwell, Beasted, Coe, Haltonen. I mean, there are pieces coming up behind him. I think you could even say Robbins to a certain degree.
Yeah, I like Tristan. I think Tristan Robbins is a guy who's going to be looking for a bounce back season. He had that high ankle sprain, and that kind of really screwed with him last season. But he seems to be healthy now. So I'm hoping that he's a guy who's going to have a big year, obviously on the Barracuda to start. But he's another guy who I think if he has a really good season, that depending on what happens on the NHL club, that he's another guy who could be definitely get a couple of games at the NHL level.
Yeah, I mean, finishing out the RFAs at 4, like I said, Clem Shady, Zetterlin,
Mhm.
Bordelot, Gushin, Coe, Robbins. On the defensive side, Muka Madulin, I think obviously he's going to get some, a bit more leash. We're going
Yeah.
to see something there. And Romanov or Romanov, depending on what part of the
Mhm.
country you live in. But you got to have somebody else in there, and obviously Krona is gone, and you
Yeah.
got that Krona. So there's
Yeah, Georgi Romanovs, it's going to be an interesting thing. And I like what the Sharks did bringing back Aaron Dell on an AHL deal because I think that I like Georgi Romanov, but I don't dislike Gabriel Carrier, but I think he's a guy who's going to be playing his first season of pro hockey. Georgi Romanov, I think, was really good to start the season. I think he tapered off a little bit as the season progressed. I thought Corona was pretty solidly the number one goalie on the Barracuda when the season ended. So I think having Aaron Dell there just in case, especially with we don't know what's going to happen with Askarov as far as is he going to be on the NHL squad like halfway through the year, or how soon does he get up there? If he's not, if he gets out of there, it's I think it's a lot for Georgi Romanov to kind of be the guy on the Barracuda team that I know I say this every year, but I don't know if they're going to be good, but they should be more fun this year based on some of the guys they still have sticking around, especially if a guy like Hignoni goes down, or if if they keep Casper Haltonen around. I think that'll be that could make them a lot of fun. And then I think they're starting the season a little more healthy than they did last year. And they've brought in some decent veteran guys to kind of help them out. Justin Bailey should be down there all year, who obviously, he was signed mostly for the Barracuda, but ended up playing most of the year in San Jose. So I think a guy like having Justin Bailey down there, Podorowski's a guy they brought in who I'm expecting big things from, a highly regarded AHL veteran guy. So I think they should be better this year, and it would be really unfortunate to have that undone by goaltending, which has happened to other Barracuda games. So I like the fact that they have Dell there to kind of be there to be able to step in and play some games if things kind of go off the rails a little bit for Romanov.
It's a nice security blanket to have with the Deller.
Yeah, it's a nice. I think it was a solid move. Ideally,
Well, because Martin Jones wasn't available
down there forever. That's true. We didn't want to pay him twice,
right? Let's move on to how we think the Pacific's going to shake out. The odds makers have said that they believe that Pacific Division will have the Oilers at first, Canucks second, Knights third, Kings fourth, Kraken fifth, Flames sixth, Ducks seventh, Sharks carrying the water at the bottom there. So let's just start. Edmonton, look, I mean, last year they were second in the division. That somehow finished behind a incredibly surprising Vancouver team. I don't even understand that. Last year, 104 points. This year, they're saying over 105, so not much change, but basically saying that they're kind of going to walk with the division. A
lot of people have, a lot of pundits have them winning the President's Trophy, which, I mean, could happen. I mean, that team's definitely talented enough to win the President's Trophy.
Well, I looked at the what was it, the people on I think it was NHL Network Radio. They published all the hosts and everybody that's involved there and their picks. And if I remember correctly, I think the Pacific Division, that was the only one that was unanimous. It was all Edmonton.
Yeah.
Other divisions, it was like, okay, maybe Avalanche, maybe Stars. Other ones, maybe Rangers, maybe Florida, whatever. But yeah, it was unanimous in the Pacific. I can't say that I disagree. Will Cody Ceci make that big of a hole? We don't know.
I mean, Ty Emerson's playing in his spot, so we'll see what happens. Emerson's a guy I like, so
I don't know that he's somebody that Edmonton likes, though. If you look at David Staples, some of the tweets he's made, he kind of is like, Ty's either gonna stick or he gone. Like, he's not gonna marinate with Bakersfield. He's either gonna stick or he's gonna get shown the door.
I think at his age, I mean, that's basically where he's at now, right?
Yeah. But it's
because he's not a guy you can send through waivers.
It's stick or learn Chinese.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, the big ones coming in for Edmonton: Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson. As you said, I mean, Emerson, if he can make some sort of a impact. But going out, of course, Ceci on defense. Dylan Holloway. I'm still a little surprised that they weren't able to make something happen there.
Him and Broberg, they both got the offer sheets and they just let them go for nothing.
Yeah,
then not for nothing. Obviously, they took the compensation from the offer sheets, but yeah, I was surprised that they let both those guys go, especially with some of the moves they made around that same time. It was like, oh no, they just made the room and now they're gonna keep. I thought they'd keep Broberg. Dylan Holloway, I think it's unfortunate for them because I think again, when you're a team in that phase of where they are, if you can get a good young guy who can come in and play decent playoff minutes for you on an ELC or a cheap contract, I mean, those are the kind of guys you need. So to let those guys go on an offer sheet, I'm kind of surprised they let them go, but that is the business.
Well, I mean, tell me I'm wrong. I usually am, but the thing that gets me about Edmonton over the last half decade, it just seems to be, it's not a lack of scoring. It's not horrible defense. It's never having a goalie that can stop a goddamn puck when it matters the most.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Stuart Skinner's, it's going to be interesting to see what he does this year. I'm not a big Stuart Skinner believer. I think that, yeah, he played well, but like he like this last playoffs, I think like, yeah, he played well, and they to get the Oilers back into that series, especially the final series there where the Oilers were down like 3-0. But like I don't think giving a team a 2-goal lead in a playoff series is recipe for success most of the time. I mean, it worked out for the Oilers somehow, but I don't think that that's continuous. I don't think you should spot teams 2-game leads in a playoff series. That's just me.
They said it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good.
Vancouver is ranked second right now. Last year, 109 points. Prediction is also 105. So they basically, the athletic points predictors are saying it's kind of jump ball between Edmonton and Vancouver. Some notable ins and outs coming in. Jake DeBrusk, which seemed to be a big name that was on their target list. But going out, I mean, Nikita Zadorov, it seemed like I heard about him 20 different ways from Sunday on all the different social media. Casey DeSmith seemed to be another big name that kept getting bandied about. But the big name that no one seems to be talking about right now is Demko. And from what I understand, he's not ready to go yet.
No, and I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. The thing with Vancouver last year was they remember Seattle the year before, where everything they shot at the net went in.
Everything that they shot at the net went in. But Vancouver, to me, last year they were the team that everybody was looking past. When they saw them on their schedule, they're like, it was like for some reason, Vancouver was not taken seriously in the first half of the season. And then by that time it was game over.
Yeah. So they were shooting like everything they shot went in the net for parts of the season. And then when they couldn't score, their goaltending was just unreasonably good, like just beyond what it should have been. And I think that's what really propelled them. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens this year, because obviously like things usually regress to the mean at some point. So I think their shooting percentage is going to come down a little bit, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in goal, because like you said, Thatcher Demko, I'm not sure how soon they get him back in, and even if they get him back in, they've probably got to reduce his workload to keep him healthy so that he is ready for the playoffs when it happens. And I haven't heard of Seelovs, the guy who came in and played a bunch of playoff games for them. I know he was banged up. I'm not sure if they have if he's close to coming back. So I think they're going to have a rough go to start the season, because I just think, as good as they're offensively, I think that I do have concerns of them. Is this going to be a team that's going to have to win a bunch of games 4-3, 5-3, 5-4, right? And sometimes that's a hole to get out of. But I think like overall, this is a team that has a bunch of really talented guys. They should be really good, and the Pacific is kind of dog shit. So are they 105, 106 points good? I'm not 100% sold. I might take the under, but just a slight under on that.
See, I think I could be talked into taking the over simply because they play in the Pacific Division.
Right, and they're gonna pick up a lot of points playing teams like Calgary, San Jose, Anaheim. I think there's going to be a lot of points up for grabs from teams like that. But you also have to play a lot of teams in the Central, which I think is becoming one of the, if it isn't already, it's one of the powerhouse divisions in the league, if it's not the powerhouse division in the league now.
Mm-hmm. And it's, as JT Miller and Pedersen go, so go the Canucks. So if those guys have big seasons, and then of course Quinn Hughes,
right?
But if one of those three start off, and obviously you can throw in Besser, but I think if one of those three guys just come out of the gates flat, maybe somebody else tries to jump in there. But look, Vegas is what it is for a reason, because they know how to pick odds.
Yeah,
and so
no, for sure.
I would, if I'm betting on it, I'm saying Oilers Canucks battle it for top of the Pacific, but Yeah, the Demko thing is such a wild card in my mind.
Yeah, the goaltending is scary, right?
Speaking of goaltending, let's move on to the Vegas Golden Knights, because to start off, I want to know how the fuck did Vegas get out from Robin Leonard's contract?
I don't know.
Explain that to me. Yeah,
can't.
explain this to me.
I can't because I don't know the situation. Like it's the whole talk around it has been incredibly vague. So without knowing enough about the situation, like I can understand how it seems very unpalatable. But without having the
Sus
details,
as fuck, I think
yeah,
is
sure,
the better.
it looks absolutely sus. But without knowing the actual details of everything, it's one of those things where it's like it sounds sus and I can understand why people are upset about it, but without having the details, I don't want to be on here and be like, oh, this Joel just loves Vegas and blah, blah, blah. Like it's one of those situations where without knowing details, I mean, do you really how do you weigh in on that?
Oh, it's so sus.
You know what I mean?
Anyway, it just, it's
And I've never been a the NHL does this because they're corrupt, and that's never been my.
I'm not a conspiracy guy, but
I know.
But I do feel like, like it seemed like for quite some time things were kind of going the Sharks' way, and then Timo Meyer had a hand pass in a playoff game, and then everything like course corrected, like to a fault. And
Well, I
now
mean,
it's
that playoff
finally,
run, right?
and then when Daly flipped over the card for the first pick and it had the Sharks logo, I'm like, finally, we're back on track.
We're back,
right?
baby.
And so I feel like when is Vegas going to get that over course correction?
Yeah.
So fourth in the Pacific last year, they're being projected to finish third. Athletic says 90. Well, basically, let's just call it 96 points.
96 points.
They've made a couple interesting acquisitions. Alexander Holtz is interesting to me. Ilya Samsonov is very interesting to me because, look, Vegas seems to be a place where goalies go to like reboot their career. Let's see if Samsonov has that same type of a deal. The other thing I'm going to put under the in column is Hurdle, simply because he barely played last season.
Yeah.
So, and if memory serves, last night had like 3 apples? So, I mean, Chief is making the most out of what he's being given. And from what I'm understanding, a lot of his deployment is third line.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're so deep, right? I mean, if you look at the centers they have,
but it's not as if Hurdle doesn't have history playing the wing.
Stone, like, yeah, no, I know, and I think I think it's a situation where they can obviously move guys around, and I think he can move up the lineup obviously if they need him. But to have that kind of depth where you can have Tomas Hurdle on your third line, I mean,
when he was the Sharks' number 1 center,
correct.
Right?
But I think I always said on a contender he's a 2.
Yeah. Oh, of course. But still, that's something. But huge losses the other way. Marchessault is a heartbeat of this team. So how do you replace him? Then other misfits, you have your William Carrier, your Chandler Stevenson. Those were all huge names that, helped build T-Mobile. So let's see how that impacts this team. Those are big losses from the room. And then, and Logan Thompson and Leonard, so you've got some big moves in goal. You're an injury to Aiden Hill away from,
Well, that's why you have Ilya Samsonov. That's why you have Akira Schmid, right? Like those are guys that can come in and play some games if they have injuries in the goaltending position, which is something that is a concern with, I think, all 3 of those guys. Yeah, the problem with Vegas for me isn't like, well, what is on this team? It is how can this team stay healthy? That's the big problem for me, because I just think when you look at some of the names that you lost there.
Well, all those names, and I mean, have they announced the day this coming week when Stone goes on LTIR?
Right. And I think that's the problem, right? Like this is a team where I think you have guys who I really like on this team who I think are really good NHL players. Like I like Jack Eichel, but when's the last time Jack Eichel's played a full season?
Right.
Mark Stone hasn't played more than half a season, I think, in the last 3
I
years.
think he's
Those
played
are
more playoff games in the last 3 years than he's played regular season games.
I don't know about that, but
It's
definitely
fucking
it's not
close,
good,
buddy.
right? It's not good. So I think for Vegas, that's always the caution that I have with them, right? Because I think this is a team where, again, they're a team where I think you can call them completely dead at your own peril because they always seem to find a way back. But we saw, a couple years ago where they completely missed the playoffs, and and you can't be angry about the way that you can talk about, oh well, they had too many guys in LTIR and whatever, but that was the plan going into the season, was they were just going to LTIR a bunch of guys and hope that they made the playoffs regardless, and then they missed the playoffs that one year. So I think is it going to be that kind of a season for them? Like I think again, if they can stay healthy-ish, is 96 points unreasonable? No, I think the definitely when you look at the pieces on that team, adding Hurdle to that mix, and if Jack Eichel can stay healthy for most of the season, I think it's a really, really doable thing. But if they get injuries piling up early, especially to guys like Eichel, if Stone goes on his regular half-season hiatus, if something happens to a guy who's been mostly durable, like I think for all the talk about Tomas Hertl's leg, like I don't think he even gets that surgery during the season last year if the Sharks were playing for something at that point.
Well, I mean, 105 is the threshold for Edmonton and Vancouver. I'm going to take the over for Edmonton. I'm going to take the under for Vancouver. At 96 for Vegas. I'm kind of with you. I'm taking the under.
Yeah, I would take the under. Like if I had to make a bet under right now, I would definitely take the under. But if they can stay healthy, I think 96 is a reasonable point projection. But that's the big if, right?
Yeah.
Can they stay healthy?
Yeah. Moving on to what they're projecting as fourth in the Pacific, the LA Kings. They finished third last season, and I got to tell you, I'm not really sure how.
Because Vegas.
But man, there's something you asked Jerk like a couple seasons ago. I was on the LA bandwagon for quite some time. They had some pieces.
That's the problem.
Your Byfield.
And I think Byfield's a stud.
Yeah, and who's the other kid?
Brent Clark. Their defenseman, Brent Clark.
But there was one other one, and he has the same name as a Shark from like 25 years ago.
Oh, Turcotte.
Yes. Yeah, always reminds me of Darren Turcotte. But yeah, Turcotte, Byfield, Clark, those three, I was just like, yes, and then in Kopitar, I mean, Jesus Christ, that guy's such a fucking horse. But they're going to be without Doughty for a significant time, evidently.
Yep.
They're being projected to almost, like 92.7. Let's just call it 93. But Darcy Kemper coming in, Talbot coming out, that almost, I mean, it kind of feels like, we're bringing in this eggshell color for this off-white color, like not terribly different. Pierre-Luc Dubois going out, but bringing in Tanner Jeannot, and then a couple former Sharks, Burrows and Studnicka coming in like, who gives a shit?
Right.
But I just look at that team and I go, like, honestly, I'm like, just looking at the names that are coming in and going out, if everybody kind of does kind of the same, like, I almost feel like, yeah, I'd put them at 92 points, or 90 points. Like, I'd put them right around there. And I'm putting them there just because everybody that we haven't even talked about yet is, at least for me, that much worse.
Yeah, LA. See, the thing here, this is the thing, right? It's all nice to have a really good prospect pool, but like those guys have to actually, they have to stop being prospects at some point, and I think that is been an issue in LA.
I mean, I've heard that many people are saying.
Yeah, many people are saying. I think that they're a team where I think that there's a lot of guys where people were really hyped on that just haven't panned out the way that probably people thought they would have. Losing Drew Doughty is obviously going to be a big hit for them. He's going to be out
massive.
for a few weeks, and I think like Drew Doughty's not he once was. Obviously, age kind of comes for us all, but last year was kind of a vintage season for him.
It was
You
a little
know,
bit of a
and
resurgence.
Kopitar's a zombie, so he never ages.
Yeah, I don't even get that.
Like, so I don't like. I look at this blue line. This blue line is hot garbage. I think, but I like their forward group. So like again, Kopitar, just doesn't seem to age. I like Adrian Kempe. Quentin Byfield, I think is hopefully gonna have a super more breakout season than he's kind of already had for them. But it's a whole lot of meh as far as I'm concerned. Like if there's a team that could take a slip to the benefit of another, it's LA.
Yes, and I think that other is going to be Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle projected to get 87 points. They finished 6th in the Pacific. Definitely underperformed last season.
For sure.
Huge name coming in, of course, Chandler Stevenson from Vegas. Brandon Montour on defense. It's going to be huge. Going out, though, they lost Tatar. Yamamoto. Did he just sign with somebody today?
He had a PTO in Utah, and they gave him a contract after he had a really good season. We had a really good preseason, with Utah, and they gave him a contract.
There you go. So you got that, but also losing Belmar, and Chris, what's his name? The goalie?
Chris Dreger.
Yeah. So there was so much goodwill surrounding Dreger a couple of years ago, and then it's just like, oh my God, this guy can't find anything. I'm gonna, I would say that Seattle is the team that I'd be slotting into 4 if I'm betting on how the Pacific Division shakes out.
Yeah, the Discord's a lot higher on Seattle. Seattle seems to be the Discord's darling right now, and there's a lot of stuff on here that I like. I think Matty Beniers had a sophomore slump last year. I think he's going to bounce back from that. I like a lot of this forward group. I think Shane Wright's going to get a real opportunity to start his NHL career finally.
He's the guy that I worry that they fucked with too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he, you know what? I think he'll be better for his time that he spent in the AHL.
I hope so.
So I think he's a guy who's going to come in. Chandler Stevenson's a guy they probably overpaid, but I think he can help them down the middle. I think they're a little bit weak down the middle. I think Chandler Stevenson will help that. I don't think Seattle's a team I could see, who could get into that 3rd seed. Maybe they're a wild card. But I think let me look at their projection here. 87 points. Would I take the over? I don't know.
I see. I think I might at like 88.
Yeah, it'd be a very, very slight over. Like I look at this team, and it's a team that I think has a lot of good things going on. I'm not 100% sold on their goaltending still.
That's one of those ones where it's like, I feel like I want to look at their schedule and be like, okay, are they playing like Anaheim and San Jose in the last 2 to 3 games? And they're going to be right at like 85 points. And I'm like, yep, got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Crafty Koala asking, what's this 6 p.m. bullshit? I came here at 7. It's like, this is the one time because we knew we were going to be, we're doing the whole preview thing. So we had to come on a little earlier. Laurel welcoming everybody in, and awesome to see you, Laurel. And just to let you know, I'm not saying that there is a new Kayla, but I am saying that there is. Let me see if I can do it without. No, she's already upset, but I'm going to do it anyway. We have a new one. She's a little. Look at that. He's like, just let me sleep, you asshole. Oh, all right, little 10-week-old thing. Super John, or I'm sorry, Super John, John.
Yeah,
okay,
Super
John, you are now Super John, coming in with the super chat. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Here's to a new season. Appreciate AJ and Ian. That's right. Thank you. Appreciate you, John.
Appreciate you, buddy.
All right, so let's move on to Calgary. Finished 5th. They're projecting them to be 5th yet again. 79 points. the
I'll
names.
take the under.
Yeah, I'm just not a believer in this team. Okay, yeah, you got Anthony Mantha, and then of course, goalie extraordinaire Devin Cooley out of losing Markstrom, Mangiapane, and then I mean, dude, you lost Nikita.
Yes.
Holchuk. I mean, how do you? But
Yeah.
dude, I would. I'm just gonna say this, and I don't know why. I would not be surprised if Calgary finished 8th.
No, I would be. The Calgary Flames are the 2020 San Jose Sharks. They're a bad team that doesn't know they're a bad team.
All right.
Like if you look at their forward group, right? Like they've still got guys that can put the puck in the net. Is it
Name
enough
one.
to be? I think no one in Calgary can still put Andrei Kuzmenko, Sharon Govich. Like these are all guys that I like. I think Mikhail Backlund is still one of the best two-way centers in the league. There's enough there that I think that they're going to be able to squeak out some games. I have obviously questions about their goaltending. You got Dustin Wolf, who's obviously going to be expected to play a much bigger role this year and kind of take that next step. And he's got Vladar backing him up. That's not super sexy. Like I'm a big Dustin Wolf fan, but he's got to show something now at the NHL level. And look at Dustin Wolf's a guy who's had an amazing run in the American Hockey League, but you know who doesn't shoot at you in the American Hockey League? The Hughes brothers, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mikko Rantanen,
I'm just,
Jason McKinnon. Like,
I mean, dude, Huberdeau needs to have a massive season. So far, I've been completely unimpressed with him in Calgary.
Mhm.
Nazem Kadri, I believe, is beyond his best by date. Kuzmenko, fine. But I look at these other names on here, Backlund and Coleman, Mantha playing on the third line as a projection.
Yeah.
And their defense to me is a relative who's who. So like if Wolf and Vladar, if they just stumble out of the gate, yeah, I just feel like and Bozo saying, Calgary having a huge yard sale come trade deadline. That's kind of
They
how
could.
I feel. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I have no faith in the Flames, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them race Anaheim and San Jose to the bottom.
Yeah, I just think that there's enough there that I think that they're gonna be fine. I'm not saying the Calgary Flames are gonna be good, but I
am
think
saying that there is no there.
I'm just saying that they're gonna be that. It would not shock me for them to finish ahead of a team like San Jose or Anaheim. Like I think it wouldn't shock me at all, even because I think there's still enough there that they could still, depending on what their goaltending does, but I think there's still enough there that they could eke out wins that they don't want.
Love the way you put that. All right. The Anaheim Ducks last year, 59 points, 30th in the NHL, 7th in the Pacific because nobody was beating San Jose to the bottom.
Correct.
The Athletic is throwing 70 points at them this season. Some names going in and out. Fabry coming in. You think that's a nice little piece to get in, but you've lost Silverberg, who I honestly thought was going to be a lifelong Duck.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And then Max Jones, also a pretty big name on the out. So, I mean, it just, to me, I look at this projection and I go, so it's last season part deux.
Yeah, I mean, for 70 points, I might take the over here. Just because I think they're going to be a little bit better. The problem with this team is their blue line. Their blue line is hot garbage. And again, I think like they've got guys that are coming that will eventually address that, but they are hot garbage on the blue line.
I feel like you have a ridiculously unmotivated Trevor Zegras.
Yeah, Trevor Zegras is a guy who like is a fascinating situation to me because he should be like, in my opinion, he's one of the guys that you would think that you would be building around, but it seems like depending on who you talk to, Anaheim either completely hates this guy and they want to trade him to, well, he's fine, but he's not the centerpiece people think he is, which is crazy to me. Like the guy's got a ton of talent. But I think, obviously I think he has to work on a little bit of his defensive side of the puck, but I still think like this guy can do things with the puck that are just silly.
Mhm.
Um
I
but
but
I
I
like there's a lot of guys that I like here. Like I like Leo Carlson, I like Mason McTavish. Like there's
dude,
I think this is a team that has been rebuilding for longer than the Sharks, and they should start coming up at some point at
I love
some
the top
time.
line. Dude, Zegras, McTavish, and Troy Terry. I have
Yeah.
no problems with that line. It's just that, and to your point, Carlson, dig him, loves me some Frank Vetrano.
Yeah.
And then you've got what's the kid's name? Cutter Gauthier?
Cutter Gauthier.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously a talent, might be a little bit of a head case. We're not sure here yet. But I mean, Gudis and Fowler are like, your big names on the blue line. That's the thing that, kind of makes me go,
Yeah, like they've
"Whoa."
got like guys that I really like. Like they've got Pavel Mintyukov, who I think is going to be a really good defenseman in this league. Owen Zellweger is just silly good, and like eventually, if they start surrounding those guys with better people, I think that this team could become really scary, really quickly if they can surround some of these players that they have with better players.
This
In
is why
goal,
I'm saying that I think Calgary could finish worse than Anaheim. I have more faith in
yeah,
Anaheim.
they could. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just still think that Calgary has enough pieces that they could get wins they don't want. Like when the Sharks had the 7th overall draft pick instead of the 1st. I really like Lucas Dostal. I think he's definitely the goalie of the future there. John Gibson, obviously, I think he's on the IR right now, but he's a guy who, like, have you ever watched someone's value rot on the vine worse than
Gibby?
John Gibson
No,
at this point?
no, not at all. Never. I mean, how that guy how he has not pulled a trade me right fucking now, I have
I
no
think they've
idea.
wanted to. I think they've just, the problem with John Gibson is that his value, they didn't trade him when the getting was good, and now the value is just not there, and now
Died on the
they
vine.
just think that he just rotted on the vine. I think there's just like a sunk cost fallacy there in Anaheim with him.
All right, and finally it comes to San Jose, and for all the rosy things that we've been talking about, everything is awesome. They're projected to finish 32nd out of the entire league. So just like last season, finished dead last. Well, no, I'm sorry. Last year they finished 30th, evidently.
Yeah. 32nd. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so 32nd. Never mind.
Yeah.
But how many points last season? Like
47.
Yeah, 47. Yeah. So they're projected. Vegas is saying 65 points. So that's a significant increase. It's what I would call a little bit more entertaining. But The Athletic has them projected to finish 32nd. Now, just above them, Columbus Blue Jackets at 31, Anaheim at 30, Chicago at 29. So those would be the teams that they're going to be, fighting out the bottom with, trying to get that, a back-to-back first-round pick. Wouldn't that be amazing? Although, from what I understand, this year's draft class is, not as spectacular as the previous two.
Correct.
Now, the weird thing, though, is Columbus is the projection sheet that I'm looking at is from about a week or so ago, and it has Columbus finishing 31st. Then I brought up a projection sheet since they've signed LeBanc, and now they're projected to finish 33rd.
Well, there you go.
So I'm just saying. So obviously for the Sharks, it's a little deeper for us coming in. I mean, we all know Celebrini, Smith, Askarov, Wenberg, Toffoli, Goodrow, Grunstrom, Wallman, Ceci going out. Let's just cover the going out real quick. Zadina. I would have liked to have seen him get one more kick at the can.
Yeah, I just think I like Philip Zadina, but I just feel like with him, there's just too many of that guy lurking around right now.
Sure. Hoffman, like I was, dude, to be honest, I was like, I didn't even know why we signed him to begin with.
He was a guy who I think they just hoped would have one of those kind of, he was a guy that you brought in hoping that he could resurrect his career a little bit and get you something at the deadline.
That's how he made a career. Like every time he went to a team, they made the playoffs. Barabanov, I mean, just a guy who just, great story coming in. That was the slow incline, great story, and then boom, right off
Yeah,
the fucking cliff.
injuries, and then again, I think as much as I like Barbie, I think the Sharks have a lot of that guy.
Yeah. Studnicka, like really?
Yeah.
Carpenter, bye-bye. LeBanc, we just mentioned.
Mhm.
Kalen Addison, from what I understand, can't even get a fucking PTO at this point.
He had a PTO in Ottawa, but he was released from it, I believe, this week.
There you go. McDonald, where the hell's McDonald now?
He went back to Colorado.
There you go. Emberson, we said Vancouver?
Edmonton?
Edmonton, excuse me. So
Yeah, Cody
that's how
Ceci
much
trade.
I am so not paying attention. Knyzhov had a PTO with somebody. Who was it?
I don't remember who he had it with, and I don't know what the result of it was.
Well, I mean, we haven't heard anything, and I'm sure one of the beat writers would have said something. Pittsburgh. It was Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh,
I'm
yeah.
sure one of the beat writers would have said something if he had stuck, so I'm going to say he probably didn't. And,
He might get an AHL deal.
Yeah. Kyle Burrows. Who did he glom onto? Was
LA.
it LA? Yeah. And then Devin Cooley glommed onto Calgary, yes?
Calgary.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, look, I mean, it's going to be hard to not improve on a 49-point season.
Agreed.
Like, you really got to do a spectacular amount of sucking to not improve on 49 points. I'm going to be the guy that says, you know what? As much as I was very... See, some people will call me pessimistic. I call myself realistic. As much as I just enjoyed dumping on last season, because look, it led to the Sharks getting Celebrini. I'm gonna be that little warm pot of gold at the end of the rainbow this season. I would say that the Sharks are going to exceed the 65-point projection. Like it's not going to be a super reach, but I would say 68, 69. I could see a 20-point improvement this season based on Vanacek and Blackwood pushing each other with Askarov in the hole.
In the wings, yeah.
All right. Some guys that just need to look, Celebrini and Smith need to prove that they're here. And they're going to get all the leash in the world with Couture being out. And, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm just like, if there's a sports book window, like right over here, I'm the first one over here, like dropping $1,000 going, give me $1,000 on Couture never playing again. I hate to be that guy, but
Sure.
that's the way the wind's blowing. Right. So, but either way, when I look at the preseason, which again, I feel are largely meaningless games. I mean, none of them count. You're obviously looking for certain things. And one of the things that I did see, it's those intangibles just last night coming back. I don't know that we would have seen that the previous year. Down 5-3, fuck it. The game doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? Boom. We don't care.
Yeah, I mean, it was good though, because it was like when I saw the lineup that was gonna play in that game, I was kind of like, what are we doing here? Like this is like
Vegas was like all starters, baby.
Sure, and generally that's the way it goes, right? You play most of your guys at home, and you play lesser guys on the road. But I thought being the last preseason games, I thought the Sharks were gonna bring in more, a little bit more of a talented lineup to Vegas.
Proven commodities.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? I credit to the coaching staff, because obviously they brought guys that are definitely on the bubble looking to make something happen. And, Daniel Gushchin has like a 5-point game. Which, again, it's like, does it mean anything in the
big fucking deal?
Game?
I saw Timo score 5 goals. Where's he now? Okay.
But you know what I mean? Like, but you saw like the thing that I liked the more about the win, because beating Vegas is always fun, obviously. But the thing I liked more about the win was the people that were responsible for taking over that game. Yeah. It was the Daniel Gushchins, the Ethan Gardballs, the guys that are definitely trying to make this team.
So, do you think the Sharks finish in the basement?
No. No, I mean, they could, and I wouldn't be shocked if they did. Um, I could see them not being in the basement, but I don't think they climb out of it very far.
Yeah, I
Because I look
don't.
at a team like Columbus, and I could see them being worse than the Sharks.
And
Um,
that goes without saying that, the tragedy that they suffered through over the offseason.
right, yeah. I mean, it's not completely their fault, but I think that's a team that's obviously without the Johnny Gaudreau signing, like that's a team that was very clearly rebuilding. So
Hmm.
I think that's a team where I have questions. I think they could be worse than the Sharks. I think Anaheim should be better than the Sharks, but I could see them being worse again.
I could see
But
Calgary being
at the
worse.
same time, and Calgary is a team where I don't think Calgary's good. I just think they eke out enough points to like not be the absolute dregs of the league. But the Sharks, I mean, I look at this Sharks team though. I mean, you're relying a lot on a lot of kids to carry some weight. Now they did bring in guys to insulate them. Guys like Tyler Toffoli, I think, was a nice pickup. I like the Barclay Goodrow pickup coming in. I think playing, he can play in multiple situations. Obviously, ideally, he's a bottom six guy, but he's shown that he can play up the lineup on a bad team. I don't want injuries, but like do we know if Macklin Celebrini's playing the season opener? No, we don't. So this you could absolutely see a situation where a couple injuries and the Sharks team is cooked.
I'm wondering who is going to be down the middle for the Sharks. Let's just say, aside from Couture, Couture to me, like I said, I'm already on record.
Mhm.
I don't think he ever plays in the NHL again. Um,
Mhm.
Who is your center depth? I mean, it's Celebrini,
Yeah,
Smith,
I see, and
Sturm.
I'm not even sure. Like, here's the thing with Will Smith. I like Will Smith. I am not sure he's an NHL center. Like, I would not be shocked if we're 10 games into the season and Granlund takes over that spot and like he plays on Granlund's wing.
See, I am right there with you. Like when I saw so many social media heads just auto
Mm.
penciling in Celebrini and Smith as the 1-2C, I'm kind of like, really? So yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I would be Celebrini, Granlund down the middle, but then who's your 3-4? I mean, obviously Sturm is a part of that.
Yeah, Sturm's your 3 or 4. I mean, that's the thing. They have options there. What did you think of Wenberg in the preseason? Because I didn't think much at all.
Neither did I. Like honestly, dude, if I'm penciling in opening night down the middle, I might go Celebrini, Granlund, Sturm, Goodrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Wenberg's a guy that they probably want in the center position, somewhere in there, either like probably third, fourth line, but probably third line. I think if Wenberg's playing on your fourth line, something's probably gone pretty wrong.
Especially at that price point. Yeah.
Right, especially at that price point, right? So I think like he's a guy who could come in and like maybe he goes up if they want to move guys around. I think Wenberg should be in that mix, but and again, you don't want to get too like I don't want to be like it's preseason, right? Wenberg's been around the block a few times, so he might come in and completely blow my socks off when the games start mattering, but I
I go
didn't
back to
think
what you were
much of
saying.
him in the preseason. Yeah.
Exactly. I was unimpressed. And, that's the thing that I've been seeing a lot on social media is
Mhm.
that people are flipping their biscuits over like, Cushion better be on the fucking opening night roster or whatever. And it's just kind of like, uh, uh, look at the fucking pieces that are there right now. And you have to
Mhm.
look at who is waivers exempt.
Yeah.
Who's not going to cost a piece. So, as much as I totally agree that performance, this should be merit based. That performance should
100% of meritocracy, right? That's what it's
yeah,
supposed to be.
it absolutely should be rewarded. The little ancillary pieces come into play, and number one is who's waiver exempt.
And who didn't they waive today? Yeah, it does make
Yeah,
things interesting.
but the thing that really makes things interesting for me is I'm really kind of excited to see who the opening night roster is for the Barracuda. Because it seems like there's going to be a good amount of talent on that team.
100%. Yeah. Like the Barracuda should, like, I don't want to, like, I'm not going to say the Barracuda are like a Calder Cup threat, but like this team should be much better than it was last year. And if it's not, then John McCarthy absolutely needs to be shown the door.
I was going to say, dude, I mean, because I felt like coming into last season, we were pretty juiced on the CUDA, and they were abysmal last season.
Well, injuries were a huge factor in that too.
Yeah, but it was
like,
just...
and not to give John McCarthy a pass, because I don't think he deserves one. But injuries were definitely a factor. They lost not only on that, but on the big club too, right? Ryan Carpenter, Justin Bailey, two guys that should have been on the Barracuda all year, ended up being on the Sharks all year. Tristan Robbins had a pretty significant injury problem during the year. Thomas Bordeleau had trouble staying healthy during the year. So it was Gushkin and more Gushkin kind of expected to carry the offensive load. And again, and that's not to, like, don't get it twisted. I am not giving John McCarthy a pass for last year. And I think if this is a team that continues to just parade to the penalty box and take a bajillion stupid penalties a game, like that's something happen, right?
At that point, has to be worked on in a huge way. You know, another name that popped into my head when it came to like finding free money, wasn't Martin Kaut free money?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was a problem for a problem, right? That was from Merkley. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, anyway, it's just a name that popped in my head. So anyway, that's how I guess we're kind of looking.
Faulty Synapse saying waivers was super crowded today. They could have gotten anybody though. Yeah, they could make a waiver claim, obviously, but I just meant like they didn't put, like the Sharks didn't put anyone on waivers. So a guy like Giovanni Smith, for example, wasn't put on waivers. So that leads me to believe that he is somewhere on this roster, which, again, if you look at all the pieces that are hanging around, that makes it more difficult for a guy like Daniil Gushkin to stick.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by that, just to clarify.
And, you know, it was a really, I don't know about it, you know, I don't know how things were in your neck of the woods. It was 100 degrees in the valley.
Definitely not 100 degrees.
Yeah. Which to me says that it was probably in the 80s or, you know, high 70s, low 80s down at like Pebble Beach, Monterey, Carmel, where the boys like to get their golf game going. So, you know, maybe that's the reason why some guys for the Sharks weren't on waivers today, because, you know, we're trying to get the golf game in.
You have to. So the thing is with waivers today is important
but
final
we're not
roster
done yet.
Has to be done at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So
yeah, but we're not done. We're not done with this podcast yet. So it might come across here in the next 5 minutes. We don't know.
Okay.
But it did seem like there was a decent amount of former Sharks that were. I saw a Jeffrey VL on there. Who else did Studenica also hit the waiver wire?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find the waiver wire.
There was definitely a few former Sharks names. I believe our buddy Pashelka threw up the list and noted some of the former Sharks that were on there. So, you know, good amount of former Sharks. And again, that's one of those things where you sit there and go, Christ, how the hell did they sign him to begin with? You know, not even a calendar year, and they're on a fucking waiver wire, and nobody wants them.
They're those guys that are. Well, it's not that no one wants them. They're those in-betweener guys that, you know, you kind of want to have, like, so you can call up if you need them, but like they're not. They're your borderline NHL guys.
No, I feel you, but it's just, you know, it's just that whole idea of just some of the names where I just sit there and go, fuck, I didn't want those guys. Even bringing back Goodrow, I'm like, fuck, you got rid of them for a reason. What are you bringing them back for? You know, I'm not a big fan of bringing back, you know, retreads, whether it was, I mean, Puck Guy will come in here with a fucking list of names, but it's like, you know, your Scott Hannon, your Brad Stewart, your Jeff Friesen, your Sandis Ozelinch. I mean, so many. And I sit there and I go, look, I'm all about a redemption story, but let's redeem somebody else's guy. We already know what this guy is. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm just waiting, like 3 years from now, there's going to be talk about bringing Hurdle back. And I'm like, no, fucking know. He made his bed. He can lie in it.
Bring him back.
All right. Before we get out of here, a couple things that we needed to touch on here. The Barracuda did release a new jersey for the 10th anniversary. Has a nice little 10 patch. Not nearly as cool as the Sharks 10th anniversary patch, but a nice patch nonetheless. Basically a black version of the ice and steel jerseys. As somebody who never liked the Cuda jersey, which was like,
Same.
okay, what if we did a stealth jersey but put Cuda, like the Rangers, like it was so fucking bland.
Not my favorite. No, not
Yeah.
at all. I love their gray one. The steel one's my favorite still,
dude.
I think.
It's
But
chef's kiss. One of the best in the
Yeah.
A. And the fact this was kind of writing on the wall. Eric and I went to what was it? One of the sidewalk sales or whatever, and there was like one or two Cuda white jerseys or whatever, and then like 1,800 black jerseys, and I'm like, you feel like a change is coming? I feel like a change is coming. You know. So they got this one right. It's basically a black version of those ice and steel jerseys, which is the correct choice. That's the way you're supposed to do it.
100%. That's
And in
definitely
fact, the
something
only
that I'd
thing, the only thing that I would, change from that is take the SJ with the Barracuda logo, chopped through the stick that is on the front of the steel and the black jersey, and put it on the white one instead of just the white SJ. Like make them cohesive across the line.
That's a change too, eh? The Barracuda bites the stick now. That's a change. He was holding the stick before.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Okay, no. That's my mistake. Okay, so you make it so he's always holding this. Well, I don't know.
I think
Is he
I
biting
think
the
they
stick
changed
now?
it. Yeah, I think the Barracuda bites the stick now.
Holy shit. Are we biting sticks up in here? God damn. All right.
Apparently,
So on a very
that's what I
special
saw.
Pucknologists, we'll get into that. We'll talk about that next week. Pay attention. Here's the other thing. Pay attention to attendance and prices this season. And I don't mean this specifically for the Sharks. I'm talking like across the board in hockey and sports in general. I don't know about you. I'm, paying attention. I'm a little bit of a lurker on some of the Twitter and the Reddit and the social media. I have never in my life seen a time when I've seen more complaints about increasing prices for merch, for food and bev, for concessions, for ticket prices. The chatter I keep noticing is that fans are just getting sicker and sicker of all the price hikes, and they don't feel like they're getting value for their dollar. Dude, parking at the tank now is $40.
That's wild.
It's insane, dude, to think that 20 years ago, $40 got you like a really nice ticket.
No. Did you see what Utah did though?
Oh, dude, that fan-friendly where it's like $2 popcorn and $3 hot dogs and shit.
Yeah, I don't know how good these popcorn and hot dogs are going to be.
$2, I don't give a fuck if it's edible.
No, exactly. I mean, like when you consider like you're going to get like a full meal there for what you probably would get I would get like a Diet Coke for.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Probably.
You know what? Puck guy nailing it. He says the steel jersey, the Cuda holds the stick, but the black one, he bites the stick.
Oh, there you go. See?
Yeah.
Barracuda biting sticks now. This Sharks have learned nothing. That's the part they choke on.
And then the other thing that gets me, dude, all the hoopla about that neighborhood game or community game, whatever the fuck they called it a couple weeks ago. They're talking about, oh, it was such a great thing or whatever. I don't even understand why they're calling it a community game and neighborhood game. Oh, is that, well, all the tickets were like $20 and I'm like, that's what preseason should be. Every fucking game. It should be $20 general admission. You get there. If you're first in line, you get for $20, you get to sit on the glass.
Yeah.
These are, if you buy 4 more tickets, you get a fucking discount.
Yeah. Preseason, like, I understand why the AHL preseason's so short because a lot of these guys are coming from the NHL camps and whatnot, but like, can we cut how many games in this preseason? It felt like it was like half my life was taken up by this preseason. Like half my life passed by.
Dude, I mean, but in the in the overall picture, we're talking how many preseason games are like six,
Like 8 right
seven,
now.
eight?
So
Okay,
8 for some teams. Yeah, like
fine.
stupid.
Okay, 6, 7, 8. Was it somewhere in that neck of the woods? Every one of those games, like I said, it should be
Yeah.
$20 a ticket, general admission. You know you're not selling it out, so just
No, I
make
know.
it general admission. You the earliest gets the best seats, but $20 and like I said, if you buy 4 or more tickets, you get, I don't know, a fucking a ticket that says you get 4 free sodas or something.
Hmm.
And parking should be free. Charging $40 for a parking spot for a meaningless game. Fuck out of here. It's just so incredibly greedy and stupid.
Yep.
And again, this is not me ripping specifically on the Sharks. This is all
Oh, it's across the
sports.
league.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
why
it's
the
across the
preseason's so long.
NHL. It's across
Yeah.
major league sports. Like
Sure.
the prices that they are gouging fans with. And the thing is, today, big football game in in the North, or, well, not North Bay, in the South Bay, but 49er game. Now, granted, the first time it was the hottest game in history in Santa Clara. It was like 95 degrees at kickoff, and you could see it on the screen where at least 35% of the seats were empty because
Yeah,
people
'cause
are
no
like,
one would sit in the sun like that. Oh my god.
yeah, dude, they're parked in the concourse trying to get some shade and everything like that. And I'm going, I wonder how much these people paid. And you see these tickets that are going unused because, they were bought 3 months ago, and then they saw they know how hot that place gets. It's like, fuck, I'm not going to that. Get the fuck out of here. And these prices.
Yeah, it's
I've
like sitting in the. I couldn't even imagine sitting like 95 degrees and paying like $17 for a bottle of water.
No, dude, exactly.
Like,
And you paid like $300 for the ticket and
right.
$17 for a bottle of water. And so, it's funny. My best friend Brett, like, we've been, kind of chewing the fat on this because over the last month and a half or whatever, we went to the Sharks game on Friday night versus Vegas. And, almost every concession was open, to their credit.
Right.
Which usually, it's like half dark on a preseason game in my previous experience. So the fact that they had that many concessions open, I was impressed with. But going around, I'm like, you want how much for a fucking little thing of mac and cheese? They want like $16 for, it's like this high, this big around. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That'd be $3.
Mhm.
So I look at that and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then we're at the athletics game, and I'm looking at the a fucking baseball game, and I'm like, you want how much for a fucking pizza? Like
Right.
a personal pizza is like $22. Don't get me started on going to a Giants game. It's just as worse. So I'm like, Brett and I have been talking about it, and it's like, you know what? We might have hit the point where we've reached our limit. We're just going to go to Barracuda games, pick like 10, 12, 14 Barracuda games. We can park for free down the road.
Yep.
Take a nice little 10-minute walk we'll park at this tap room, have a couple of beers at a much better price, take a nice leisurely stroll, watch some CUDA hockey, great seats at $12 a ticket, have a beer in there, and then have a nice leisurely walk back, and boom, we're done. And like, we're all in on the night, not even $50. Meanwhile, you can't get a decent seat at a Sharks game for $50, much less, parking and concessions and everything. So it's
Right.
like, it's the fact that I just keep seeing this mentioned on social media where it's like the merchandise prices are out of control, parking, concessions. tickets at some point, and I think it's going to be fucking soon, man.
I hope.
There's going to be some teams, a lot of teams that are just like because I think everybody when we were all trapped with COVID for like a year and a half, we all had like cabin fever, wanted to get out and do shit. Well,
Sure.
everybody's been doing shit now for the last 2 years, and now they're over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. So I think at this point, let's see how ticket prices go and just overall prices go for the next. Because I got to tell you, man, I feel like fans they're about right this close to revolt.
I think so. Yeah, 100%.
They're
Like it's because it's not just there. I mean, it's just everything's more expensive across the board. So, your dollar's not going as far as it used to.
But the thing is, there are other options.
Sure, yeah,
You know?
yeah, but I think it's hard to ask for more money when your dollar's not getting it what you used to get at the grocery store even, and then to want more on top of that, it's bad. It's bad for everyone.
Anyway, I think that's probably going to do it for us tonight. It's a nice little wrap on what had happened was. So between now,
games to talk about.
Yeah, between now and next Sunday, obviously the Sharks open the season on Thursday against the St. Louis Blues. From what I understand, that they're going to open with the Cali Finn jerseys for whatever reason.
Okay.
It's a Thursday game, so you should, because Black Thursdays. That's how it works.
Right.
And then Sunday at home against Anaheim. Right there, I'm going to just go out on a limb right now. I'm going to say the Sharks shock the world and open the season 2-0.
Oof. Also, the Barracuda will start their season Saturday, I believe at 6 Pacific in Ontario.
Fantastic. So we're going to talk about a little all that. We'll be back at our normal time, 7 p.m.
Yes.
next Sunday. And remember, check out After Dark following every Sharks game. We such a good stable of folks. I mean, you got Eric, you got Jules, you got Landy, you got Dana, you got Felix. Who am I missing? There's so many. Mark.
Everybody.
Mark. Yeah. So many names. It might even see Jerk make a fucking cameo appearance on an After Dark. When have you ever seen that? So with that, and remember, if you want to join us on the Discord, you can hit up at @hockey_jerk on Twitter. From what I understand, he's being a little tardy this off season, so you have to wait till hockey starts for him to get at you. But he should be able to hook you up. So any final thoughts as we go? What do we have any more? There's at least one more Barracuda preseason game, right?
Nope, that was at 2 games.
Really? It was
they
just
lost one, yeah. Just 2 games.
Man,
it's the way it should be. Like the NHL preseason should be 4 games, man.
I get this it's just a quick weekend.
Is silly.
Yeah, but what's opening night for the CUDA? 2 weeks from now?
No, it's Saturday night in Ontario.
Oh, I'm thinking of their first home game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They start the season in Ontario this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, Bayjaws is correcting me. So I guess Thursday is normal Teal jersey, but Saturday is going to be the one time that they do the Cali Fit. Okay. To be honest, who gives a fuck?
I love it.
I don't care.
I love that Barons logo.
The who?
The Barons logo.
The Barons logo.
Yeah, it's in his for his
dude. I mean, a shark wearing a top hat and a monocle. I mean, how are you going to get any better than that?
No, you can't. You can't.
To be quite honest, I was a little upset when they went with the Barracuda, not that.
Yeah.
Instead of playing Barracuda or whatever, the goal song for the CUDA, it should have been, ho ho. That's it. Everybody whips out a monocle. Ho ho. So with that, I guess
I'm just glad it's starting. I'm glad the preseason's finally over. I'm just glad it's finally we're finally here. Because again, I feel like I lost half my life to that preseason. It felt like it just
Well, finally here, and then the thing that gets me is like you think about where we are sports wise, where the in football
Mhm.
we're starting to see separation, pretenders, you know,
Sure.
versus like legit threats, and of course today the 49ers did no help to their cause, but you also have WNBA playoffs. You have
Mhm.
MLB playoffs. You have hockey starting this week. And the thing that gets me is there's been a couple times that I've seen it. Well, oh, well, hockey should start a little earlier because of this. And it's like, fuck you. There's always a reason. There's always a reason. Oh, it should start later. It should start earlier. I'm going to be on record and say, no, it should start early. It should start like October 1. The,
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
if,
yeah, yeah.
if we're handing out the Stanley Cup in summer, there's a problem. We fucked up somewhere along the line.
Yeah, because like what I mean, even with the because they have the Four Nation Face Off that's going to be in the middle of the season this year, if I'm correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when's that? Oh man, I can't even imagine where
Uh,
that's going to put the playoffs.
right? And it's just the fact that if we're literally beyond like June 21st and we're handing out a cup, somebody fucked up severely along the way. Like maybe, we can't have, I don't know, like a dual sports weekend and be like, hey, Thursday night, here's the first game of the NFL. And then this following Saturday is the first game of the NHL. And
Yep.
then we all go along with the rest of our lives and our normal schedules the way that it usually goes.
Yeah.
Drives me fucking crazy. And not to get me started on I don't understand how to watch the game. Do I need this app or do I need this app or do I tune into this? And I will,
Yeah.
dude, I will say, tip of the cap to the Sharks. I was able to watch every preseason game this season. When was the last time
Yeah.
you were able to see that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the region, that was great. It still sucks, right? Like you can watch. It sucks.
The fact
for
that
the
it's
people
geo-locked is absolute bullshit.
completely baffling. And I know Shang put out an article saying like, "Oh, well, that's the NHL rules," and it's like, well, maybe the Sharks should be not the only team following this rule because clearly they were the only ones that were.
Shang, I love you. Fuck you. like, give me a fucking break. If we're talking meaningless fucking games, they don't
I know.
count.
No, I don't think like Shang was just saying like, a lot of people were blaming the TV partner for it being geo-locked, and he's like, "Oh no, this is an NHL rule or whatever."
I
And,
don't
like,
give a
again,
fuck what the who made the
Yeah.
rule. It's the a dumb rule is a dumb fucking rule.
Well, it's not even that, but I mean, again, the Sharks seem to be the only ones that were following the rule.
See,
So
that just makes me more irritated. To me,
Yeah.
the fact that every team should have their YouTube channel and you just there you go. Fucking straight. I shouldn't have to log on to a fucking my NBC app and log in with this in order to stream.
Yeah.
That okay, I will say like on one hand, tip of the cap that I was able to watch all the preseason games.
That's
But
there was once upon a time where unless the opposing team was showing it, you were screwed. So I mean, that's
exactly.
an improvement.
Yeah, stick tap for that improvement, but middle finger for the fact that I would have to log on to
Right.
the app on my phone and then project it onto my
Project
big
it to
screen
your
TV
TV.
to watch it. Like, fuck off. Like,
I know.
how do you draw interest, grow the game when you're going to make people jump through obnoxious hoops?
Yeah, or if you're outside of the region, you want to stream it on the website, you got to fire up your VPN and hope your VPN works.
Right.
And like,
and what about people that maybe, the time that it's playing doesn't jive with their schedule, but maybe, 5, 6, 7 hours later, whatever, they
Yeah.
want to watch it. Like,
And then you
where's the
can't, yeah.
replay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obnoxious. Anyway,
That's what
that's,
you get for cheering for the Sharks.
well, it's, again, that's the kick in the balls
It is.
when the team that you root for is literally in the heart of technology central of the
Yeah.
planet.
And they can't figure this shit out.
Yeah, it's just, it's so obnoxious. So anyway, with that, he is Ian. I'm AJ. We will see you guys next Sunday, 7 p.m. And we're going to get into, I'm evidently betting on a 2-0 start for the Sharks. We'll see what, we'll tune in next Sunday and you will be able to hear Ian utter the words, AJ, you ignorant slut. What the fuck were you thinking?
Who are they playing again? They're playing St. Louis and
Anaheim. I
Anaheim.
believe, dude.
Oh, you know what? 2-0. I don't think St. Louis is going to be good this year either.
Dude, if you listen to our buddies over at Let's Go Blues Radio, dude, they think that the Blues are going to fucking race Columbus and San Jose for the bottom.
I mean, they're in a brutal division.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 2-0 start. It's not. It wouldn't surprise me. I think it's probably a 1-1 start, but man, 2-0, that'd be fun.
All right. So with that, we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and we will catch you all next Sunday following the week 1 of San Jose Sharks hockey for the 24-25 season. Good night, everybody.